Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to show you a completely brand new update that will be released by us next week. That means for all users of our trading bot it will be included in the full version at some point relatively shortly after Easter. Here I'm going to show you ahead of time what we've done, namely we've integrated the options levels directly into the system itself. So in case anyone isn't familiar with this yet, the CME group provides options levels, which means you can see right here where most of the options are positioned. That means you can click on the product, for example, the S&P 500, and now you can see very clearly where most positions were opened. Of course, you can also see very precisely where the volume is or where specific changes have taken place, meaning the open interest change. In other words, you can clearly see here where positions were added, where certain positions were reduced, and you can view all of that information up here. Of course, this doesn't only work for the ES, it also works for metals or even for oil. Maybe we can take a look at gold right here, which means that here as well we can clearly see these are the changes so far. Of course, we can take a look at the open interest here, meaning these are the key levels where most options are heavily concentrated. What is so interesting about these particular option levels? Basically, it is really nothing else. The market moves toward that area, there are many positions there, and they are either defended or the positions then have to be hedged no matter what happens. If we break through such a level in a really decisive way, it can of course move in the other direction, or if we run into it here and it holds up, the market can of course bounce back upward from it. We've now integrated these levels into the bot, and as a result, the hit rate is naturally quite good for the Z. However, even at that point, you of course need to broaden your perspective a little bit, and you also need to know exactly what you are setting up here. That means I need to be at least somewhat familiar with order flow. In other words, I can say this candle needs to show absorption, it needs to have a negative delta, and then after that I want strong buyers to step in. Or I can do it via a delta change, a core impulse, basically whatever settings you can configure here in the bot. I went ahead and made a few initial settings in advance. There really weren't that many. That means I've only been working with this for just a few days so far, and there's still quite a bit you can optimize, but I'll simply show you how the bot would have performed over the course of a week. This is the final week now, although it's actually only 4 days, and we're running this quite conservatively with just a single contract without overdoing it even in the slightest bit. That means it's basically suitable for just about any type of account. That means we will just let this run as is and see what the result looks like at the end of the week. Essentially, as I mentioned earlier, you can set this up for pretty much any market. For the time being, I had it configured for the ES last week, and today I tested a few additional things out as well. Next week it will be fully integrated into the complete version, and for now I'll just let the night run a little faster so I don't end up boring you here for too long over Easter. However, it is definitely quite a major update, and I can tell you it naturally provides additional added value, significantly more. If someone, for example, trades these levels, they can configure the bot for that and then do not have to sit at the computer for the entire time. As I said, this is what it would look like if the bot was simply allowed to run on its own. Of course, you still have to see whether you can get even more out of it. But for now, these were the initial settings I set up, and I personally like them, and I'm going to keep it running like this next week too. Yes, I also used it this week, or to be a bit more precise, last Thursday. I made that one single trade with it, and then I exited the position manually myself. It went very well. I only configured it specifically for the US session. Yes, that means from 3:30 p.m. until I believe 10 p.m. or 9:30 p.m. and then it is permitted to place the very last trade of the session. As I said, for now those were just some pretty rough default settings. Whether I would let it keep running that long into the evening if it has already made a good profit, probably not. But that also depends on each individual person. I'll slow down a bit here again so it doesn't get confused. Of course, it doesn't have to take a trade at each and every single level. You can see that very clearly. There will definitely be more possible trades if I lower the order flow parameters just a little bit. But I actually find it even more interesting when the order flow parameters also really fit for me personally, so that I can say, okay, I know exactly what's going on. Either sellers were absorbed, buyers are coming into the market, whatever that means. So I can, of course, adjust all of that right here. And you also learn all of this over time as well, meaning that if you spend a little bit of time with it, people in the community also keep posting better and better results and better setups. And you can see that the bot works through this pretty quickly. You can also clearly see that not every trade is a winner. There's just no way around it. Of course, we don't have a 100% win rate here either, and not every single setup gets taken. We've now got 2 full days running with one contract. Okay, I'll let it run a little faster here again. You could, of course, optimize it for the entire trading day as well. As I mentioned earlier, I'm currently only concentrating on the US session, because if I were to configure it for the EU session, I would most likely choose slightly different settings. And of course, I can implement that inside the bot too. I can also set up multiple sessions in here if needed. In the end, that's really up to each individual person. You can also, of course, choose different markets here. For example, you could switch over to oil and take a look at the oil levels. I could, of course, program the bot for that as well. There's also, for instance, the Russell, which I could look at and set it up for, and that's entirely up to me too. In terms of tick value, it's not quite as intense as the NASDAQ or the ES, which means you can take on a bit less risk here. It doesn't always have to be the DAX or the NASDAQ. In addition, you now have this cross-trading function from ATAS, which works really well. And you can, of course, test that here too. Instead of going in with one contract, you go in with 4 micros, and then, of course, you don't have that exact same level of risk. I know it can be difficult to imagine, really difficult to imagine that this can actually work, but you can see it right here. It's not magic, it's simply levels combined with a buy signal. And here you can also see, of course, that not each and every single trade works out. As it looks right now, the day is already pretty much over. I'm going to speed things up again now. Now we have 3 days here, and now one additional day is coming in as well, the 4th day. All right, let's slow down a little again. Of course, you can also see all the trades made here. Here again, a losing trade, which is completely okay. Here again, a winning trade. Here again, a losing trade, another winning trade. Now he has even built the position up to 2. It looks like that's all for now as well. That means that over a period of 4 days, we made $9,500 here, or rather, the bot generated $9,500 quite conservatively using just a single contract without overdoing anything at all. We simply let the bot run at certain specific levels, and that was basically it. Yes, as it looks, that was the end. I hope you were able to get a little insight into what is possible here, what the upcoming updates are, or rather, what the next update is. And yes, we are not resting either. We keep continuously developing our bot further, and you are, of course, warmly invited to come over to the channel and test our trading bot as well. As I already mentioned in the video before last, for testing, there is only the test version available. That means the very latest updates are not included. Those are actually available only to our customers. With that in mind, happy Easter to you, good trades to all, and I'll see you next time.